the 8-word goodbye, and the triple miracle. Subscribe now to our channel and hit the like button if you believe in second chances. The shattering text. A CEO's cowardice. Trigger warning. This story begins with a shock. The world of Anya Sharma, a brilliant finance executive in her late 20s, didn't just crack. It exploded into a million pieces with just 8 words in a text message. "I'm leaving with someone else. Don't call." Anya had always envisioned the end of love as a theatrical scene, a tearful final conversation, a mutual, painful understanding. Never in a million years did she imagine her reality would collapse from a single, cold text on a regular Tuesday afternoon. She was putting the final touches on a crucial presentation for the next investor meeting of Marcus Thorne, her partner and the CEO of a fast-growing tech firm, when her phone buzzed. She expected his usual, "Running late, babe." Instead, she saw the blow. "I'm leaving with someone else. Don't call." It didn't sound like the man who kissed her forehead every morning in their minimalist, luxurious penthouse apartment in New York City. It didn't feel like the man who held her while she cooked, telling her he was the luckiest man alive. She tried calling 6 times. All went straight to voicemail. His once permanent presence vanished like smoke. His spare key was gone. His tailored suits, his expensive shoes, all traces of him had been meticulously erased before he hit send. The framed photo of them from their trip to San Francisco, where he wore a genuine smile, was turned face down on the shelf. It was as if he'd scrubbed himself from their shared life before sending his final act of cowardice. Anya collapsed onto the cold marble floor of her living room, her tears overwhelming her. The penthouse suddenly felt gigantic and unbearably hollow. How had she missed the signs? The growing distance, the fading compliments, the increasingly rare touch. She had dismissed it as the stress of him being such a young, driven CEO. She never imagined that she was the burden he was desperately trying to escape. The tears only stopped when a sharp, searing pain shot through her abdomen. She had been waking up with weeks of nausea and fatigue, blaming the relentless corporate hours. But deep down, she knew there was another possibility, one she had stubbornly refused to face. With trembling hands, she reached for the pregnancy test she had bought 3 days prior. She sat on the cold bathroom tile, waiting, when the digital screen flashed the single, life-altering word, pregnant. A new type of weeping consumed her. It wasn't one of anguish, but of an overwhelming, terrifying responsibility. She felt more alone than ever before. In that moment, when everything falls apart, what would you do? Would you fight to reclaim the pieces, or would you wipe the slate clean and start a new life? Let me know your honest opinion in the comments below. That night, as the lights of New York blurred beyond the glass, she made her decision. Marcus had chosen his path without a backward glance. But she couldn't. There was a future growing inside her, one she already loved fiercely. The next morning, Anya Sharma packed the essentials, sold nearly all the furniture, and used her savings to buy a one-way bus ticket to a small, remote town in the Adirondack Mountains, a place she chose randomly on a digital map. She needed to disappear just long enough to rebuild. The adolescence of strength, the triple threat. Anya rented a modest cabin with thin walls that backed onto a dense cedar forest on the outskirts of the town. It wasn't much, but the windows overlooked nature, and at night, all she heard was the wind. She quickly found work at a local bakery, the Cedar Hearth. She arrived before dawn, kneading dough for scones and muffins while frost clung to the windows. The pregnancy was far more exhausting than she imagined. The nausea was constant, and her belly grew at an alarming speed. At the rural clinic, the doctor's brow furrowed over the ultrasound screen. Anya held her breath, terrified. When the doctor spoke, her tone was cautious. "There's more than one heartbeat, Anya. A new dawn in the olive grove. It had been 20 years since the 8-word text message, and 5 years since Anya and Marcus had shared the truth with their daughters. The Sharma Thorne social capital was no longer just a national success. It had attracted international attention for its sustainable model of empowering women-led enterprises, proving that integrity could yield exponential returns. The 3 sisters, Lily, Luna, and Liana, now vibrant young women in their early 20s, were home for the summer break from college. Their individual journeys mirrored the duality of their parents' story. Lily, the sensitive one, was pursuing social work. Luna, the dreamer, studied architecture with a focus on sustainable rural design. And Liana, the pragmatist, was in business school, already showing Marcus's sharp strategic mind, but tempered with Anya's empathy. One warm evening, the family was gathered on the porch, the air smelling of jasmine and pine. Marcus, now in his late 40s, had a distinguished silver threading his hair, making him look more grounded than the slick young CEO of the past. "Dad, I have to make a choice," Liana said, setting down her laptop. "I have 2 summer internship offers, one from Sterling Capital Investments, my old firm, Anya, and one from a small, values-driven tech startup in the Pacific Northwest that works with our foundation." Anya and Marcus exchanged a meaningful look. This was more than an internship choice. It was a test of the values they had painstakingly built, the test of the old ghost. "Sterling Capital will look incredible on your resume, Liana," Marcus said, his voice neutral. "They represent the peak of the old world of finance. I know the game they play." "And you know what it cost you, Marcus," Anya added gently. Liana shook her head. "That's exactly it. My professor said the Sterling offer proves I could have the perfect traditional career. He said my work with the foundation is nice, but not real capital. He's tempting me with the ghost of the life you left behind." Marcus took his daughter's hand. "The old world defines real capital by the 0 count in the bank. We define it by the impact and the legacy you create. I spent my 20s chasing a number, not a purpose. When I walked away, I thought I was giving up everything. Instead, I gave myself the only thing worth having, the chance to live a life I respected." He paused, his blue eyes intense. "Go to Sterling, Liana, and you might succeed brilliantly. But will you be proud of how you succeeded? The values of a company are its roots. If the roots are rotten, the fruit will be poisoned. I choose the olive grove, Liana. Every day I choose this life, and I choose your mother, and I choose you. The question is, which one will you choose for yourself?" Liana looked at her mother. Anya simply smiled. "You don't need our permission, sweetie. You have our faith. We raised you to know the difference between a golden cage and true freedom." Liana nodded, her choice solidified. "I'm calling the startup tomorrow. I want the real capital, the unbreakable knot." That night, as the house fell silent, Anya and Marcus sat alone on the porch. The quiet was a comfortable friend, not the deafening enemy it had been 2 decades ago. "You handled that beautifully," Anya whispered, leaning her head on his shoulder. "It must have been hard to talk about Sterling without regret." "There is regret," Marcus admitted, looking up at the countless stars. "I regret every moment I wasn't here, every giggle I missed. But I don't regret the man I became because I left. The leaving was the necessary fire that burned the arrogance out of me. It forced me to see you not as a distraction, but as my anchor." Anya touched the faint line of a scar on his hand, a small cut he'd gotten while fixing a roof at the community center years ago. "And I don't regret the solitude," she said. "It taught me that I didn't need a man to define my worth. It gave me the strength to welcome you back, not out of need, but out of a choice for mutual growth." She looked at him, her eyes soft but unwavering. "That 8-word text message, Marcus. It was the ultimate betrayal, yes, but it was also the ultimate test of our characters. I passed by surviving. You passed by returning and rebuilding, not with money, but with action. That is the true history of the Blue Eyes. The willingness to face the consequence of your mistakes and become irreplaceable to the people who matter most. Marcus turned, his gaze full of the hard-won love that had survived years of silence and rebuilding. We don't have a perfect love, Anya. We have a real one. A love that knows its flaws and chooses to stay anyway. That is the unbreakable knot. They sat in silence, secure in the knowledge that their story was no longer about betrayal or redemption. It was about foundation, the foundation of a new kind of success, built on honesty, earned love, and the enduring power of a family that understood the irreplaceable value of choosing right over easy. Anya didn't understand until the doctor turned the monitor and pointed to 3 small, flickering lights. Triplets. 3 babies. 3 lives. It felt impossible, terrifying, and yet a miracle and an insurmountable burden all at once. The news forced her into a deep survival mode. She bought second-hand maternity clothes and carefully juggled every dollar. When her legs ached at the bakery, she would whisper to her belly, "It's okay, babies. We'll get through this. I promise." She refused to speak Marcus's name. She didn't owe the world her pain, but the loneliness found her every night. She went to bed fearing she would fail them. She stopped calling her parents after they gave her a cold dismissal. "You made your bed, Anya." She accepted that her daughters would be born into a family of 4, and that she alone would be their anchor. One night, in the middle of a blizzard, the contractions began. She called an ambulance because there was no one else. Amidst the flashing lights, bright hospital lamps, and cold hands, Lily, Luna, and Liana were born. 3 tiny platinum blonde miracles with intense blue eyes. The exact same startling blue eyes as Marcus Thorne. Weeks later, when they were strong enough, she buckled them into 3 donated car seats. As she drove away from the hospital, she whispered, "You will never feel unwanted. Not for a second. You are my family. You are my strength." Don't forget to share this video with a friend who needs a reminder that strength comes from within. The Ghost of Success. Marcus's hollow echo. Marcus Thorne's life in New York maintained the illusion of perfection. His name graced business magazines. His company expanded. There was always a woman on his arm, models or high-powered executives, who matched his status. But behind the expensive suits, something was irreparably broken. He thought leaving Anya would be clean. She had started wanting too much. More time, more commitment, more vulnerability. His father had taught him that love was a distraction and vulnerability a weakness. When Anya became too real, he cut the cord. 8 words. Problem solved. But he didn't anticipate the echo. A deafening silence that stalked him. The boardroom felt colder. The applause was hollow. He laughed, but the joy never reached his eyes. He had buried every trace of her, yet she kept reappearing. In the scent of cinnamon at a coffee shop, in a song on the radio. He tried to drown the memory in more work, but the higher he climbed, the more distant the ground felt. The glass penthouse became a cage. The dreams returned, dreams of a dark-haired woman and of a blonde girl who laughed and disappeared. One afternoon, at an investors' meeting, someone mentioned a charity drive for rural hospitals. A specific, chilling thought hit him. Anya had never called back. She had disappeared. Cleanly. Completely. And that silence didn't feel like peace. It felt like a missing piece. He opened a forgotten desk drawer and found a photo. Anya smiling in Central Park. He remembered her voice saying, "I think when you truly love someone, you stay, no matter how scared you are." He hadn't stayed. He had fled. The next day, he asked his assistant to discreetly search for Anya. Weeks later, the report came back empty. No social media, no fixed address, no trace. The fact that he didn't know anything about her, whether she had suffered or found happiness, hurt him more than he ever expected. How powerful must the pain of regret be to make a man like Marcus, accustomed to power, abandon everything to search for the truth? What would you give up for a genuine second chance? The possibility that she might have been pregnant became a shadow he couldn't shake. He started making quiet changes. He donated more money to children's hospitals. He showed up to work meetings in small towns instead of sending his executives. He needed to move. He needed to stop being still. The mountain encounter, a fraud exposed. The trip to the Adirondack town was meant to be another routine charity visit. Marcus agreed to attend a small fundraiser on behalf of his foundation. He expected a few speeches and a quick flight back, but the air of the small town, filled with stone buildings and quiet calm, felt different. The gala was held at a restored historic train station. Marcus, in his custom-tailored suit, shook hands and gave his speech about the importance of community investment, feeling like a fraud. As dinner began, he retreated to a corner. That's when he saw her. She was near the dessert table, in a simple, wine-colored dress, her dark hair pulled back in a braid. She had changed. She had become stronger, like someone forged by fire. The name Anya struck him like a dull bell. He took a step towards her, then froze. He saw 3 small girls at her side, wearing identical white cardigans, all with pale blonde curls and those shocking blue eyes. They couldn't have been more than 2 years old. One was tugging her skirt, another giggling. Marcus's heart slammed against his ribs. Their faces, their eyes, their mouths. They were his. The noise dissolved. All he could see was the small, fierce universe existing around Anya. She turned slowly, as if sensing the weight of his gaze. Their eyes met. She didn't flinch. She didn't smile. There was no fear in her eyes, only a deep, quiet calm that disarmed him completely. He waited for her outside, under the soft light of the awning. Snow began to fall gently. The girls were bundled in small coats. "They're mine," he finally said, his voice raw. "Aren't they?" "Yes," she replied. Nothing more, no fury. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you told me not to call. Because you said you were leaving with someone else. Because I was already invisible to you before I knew I was pregnant." Marcus had no words to undo what was done. Anya turned to leave. Then she hesitated. She glanced over her shoulder and said, almost gently, "You are not the story they grew up on, Marcus. You are not the reason they smile at night." And she walked away. He stood in the cold, watching her walk to a car, far too small for the woman who had once shared his penthouse. The man who thought he could leave without consequence was gone. In his place was someone hollow. His daughters existed, and if he wanted a place in that world, he would have to earn it. From scratch, without privileges, only with a simple desire to be a part of what he had once thrown away. Building the present. Brick by brick, Marcus returned to the town under the pretense of expanding his foundation's efforts. He rented a small, no-frills apartment. The floors creaked, and the view was non-existent, but it kept him close to them. Close to her, he learned their routines. He watched Lily, Luna, and Liana run to school in the morning. He volunteered at the community center where Anya sometimes helped out. He kept their encounters brief, applying no pressure. Anya remained civil, but reserved. Her calm was a wall built brick by brick with the years she had spent surviving alone. He didn't try to buy his way back. Instead, he simply showed up. Quietly. Consistently. He helped paint classrooms, carried boxes, fixed a leaky pipe in the kitchen. He did it to prove he had changed, not with grand gestures, but with evidence that came with no strings attached. One afternoon, while stacking boxes, a small voice interrupted him. "Why do you keep coming here?" It was Lily. Marcus knelt slowly. "Because there are people here I care about." She looked at him with those penetrating blue eyes. "You look like my sisters." "I know," he smiled, fighting a lump in his throat. "That's because I'm your dad." There was no drama, only a thoughtful pause. "Okay," Lily said, and ran off. That evening, Anya confronted him at the exit. She was exhausted, cautious. "They're going to ask questions about you now, about us." "I know," he replied, "and I'll be here to answer them. Only if you let me." She didn't promise him anything. But she also didn't tell him to leave. The girls began to interact with him. They let him braid their hair with ribbons. One night, Anya invited him to dinner, not as a romantic gesture, but as a moment of truce. The girls giggled over the spaghetti. Marcus helped wash the dishes, soaking wet with laughter echoing in the small kitchen. Later, with the house quiet, she offered him a cup of tea. "I don't know how to trust you," Anya admitted. "Not yet." "I'm not asking for trust," he said. "Just time." He promised nothing. But that night, walking out into the stars, Marcus allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this story wasn't over. The real test, fever and faith. Spring thawed the streets. Marcus had been in town for nearly 3 months. The girls were used to him now. Sometimes they'd call him Daddy with the casual innocence of children who believe in second chances. He learned to do 3 blonde braids without complaint. He sat on plastic chairs at dance class. He changed diapers. Every time one of them leaned on his shoulder, something in his chest healed. Anya watched him, no longer with suspicion, but studying him. She had never seen this version of Marcus, the one who stooped on the sidewalk to tie shoelaces, the one who read parenting blogs. One day, Luna got sick with a fever. Anya panicked, but Marcus remained calm. He called the doctor, carried Luna, and held her in the car. He never left their side. After Luna was treated and resting, he stayed up all night on the sofa, watching over all 3, while Anya slept for the first time in 2 days. In the morning, she found him slumped in the armchair, unshaven, with one of the triplets curled up on his lap. In that moment, something clicked for her. She didn't say anything dramatic, but when he opened his eyes and looked at her with that tired, defenseless love, she knelt beside him and whispered, "You're doing it, Marcus. You really are doing it." And for the first time, she didn't see the man who had broken her, but the man who had started to rebuild her, loving not just her, but the daughters who had become her entire world. The Olive Grove proposal, a choice for forever. A year after that fateful charity event, they returned to the same venue. This time, the celebration was for the community. The hall was filled with flowers and lights. Anya was at the dessert table, laughing as her daughters handed out cookies. She didn't notice Marcus disappear until she turned around and saw him standing in the center of the room, looking at her. Silence invaded the hall. People stopped. The girls were the first to boo as they saw him drop to one knee. The old Marcus would have done something grand and loud. But this man, the one who had learned to love with humility, remained silent for a moment. Then, in the quiet, with his daughters watching and a room full of neighbors holding their breath, he spoke. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. You gave it to me already in the quietest ways that matter. I'm not here to make promises I can't keep. You've seen who I am now. I'm not here to fix the past because you healed more than I ever could." He paused, and his voice cracked slightly. "I only ask for a chance to wake up next to you, to raise our daughters together, and to live this life not as a punishment for the mistakes I made, but as a celebration of what we built despite them." Anya didn't cry. She looked at her wide-eyed daughters. She looked at Marcus, still kneeling, waiting, not demanding. She nodded. Yes, she said. It wasn't a fairy tale yes. It was a yes rooted in scars, in healing, and in the daily choice to love. Even when it's hard. The girls ran to hug them. Later, at home as the girls slept, Anya and Marcus held hands. None of their journey had been easy, but they were there together, not in spite of everything, but because of everything. Their love was not a reboot. It was the beginning of something completely new. Thank you for joining us on this powerful story of redemption and love. If this story inspired you, please share this video with someone who needs a reminder that there is always a second chance to be the person you should have been. Subscribe now for more amazing stories. The Roots and the Legacy. Rios Vidal Capital Social. The true second chance isn't going back to the starting point. It's building something better on the wreckage of the past. Life settled into quiet, profound routines. After the proposal, Anya and Marcus didn't rush to marry. Their commitment was not a piece of paper, but the daily reality of their life together. Marcus, now fully remote, had shifted his focus from multi-million-dollar acquisitions to something simpler yet profoundly meaningful, rebuilding his reputation. He founded a small nonprofit called Strong Roots, dedicated to providing capital and mentorship to small, women-led businesses in rural areas. It's about supporting the Anyas in the shadows, the ones with the talent but not the resources, he explained to Anya one night. Family life was organized chaos. Lily, Luna, and Liana, now 3.5, had accepted Marcus as an indispensable part of their world. He was the bicycle fixer, the bedtime story reader, and the target of endless games of hide and seek. The trust challenge, but the shadow of betrayal didn't entirely vanish. One afternoon, Anya received a promotional email from Sterling Capital Investments, Marcus's old firm. A cold feeling ran down her spine. That night, while Marcus read a story to the girls, Anya approached him. "I got an email from your old company," she said. Her voice was quiet, but subtly tense. Marcus stopped reading, put the book down, and looked at Anya. "You're right to ask, Anya. I told you. I'm gone. There's nothing more there." He offered no excuses. He explained that he still maintained an old legal email account related to his withdrawal, but had cut all ties to the work. Then he did something the old man never would have done. He held out his phone. "Check it, look through it whenever you want. I have nothing to hide. If trust is a castle, it has to have glass doors, not stone walls." Anya didn't take the phone. Instead, she took his hand. "It's not about the phone, Marcus. It's about knowing that even if it hurts, I can ask, and I know you will answer me." That was enough. It was a cathartic moment. Trust wasn't blindness. It was transparency and the willingness to face the darkness. Decision on the legacy. Soon after, Anya and Marcus sat down together. "I don't want to invest in something without a soul," Anya said. "I want our daughter's legacy to be built on more than just money." Marcus smiled. "Then let's invest in what we've built here. Let's invest in Strong Roots. Let's turn the foundation into a social enterprise. We don't just help women, we help them grow, creating a network of female entrepreneurs in this region." Anya felt a surge of familiar energy. It was the old CEO, now strengthened by humility. "Let's call it Sharma Thorne Social Capital," Anya said, meeting his eyes. "Where capital is the strategy, and social is our commitment." It was an unspoken agreement. Marcus would bring the financial expertise, and Anya the strategic vision and empathy. They transformed Strong Roots into a success model, attracting other impact investors. The perfect ending. 2 years later, Anya and Marcus finally married. The wedding wasn't in a grand New York cathedral, but in the olive grove behind the small cabin Anya had rented in her worst moments. The girls, now 5, scattered petals, and danced non-stop. When Marcus looked at Anya, he didn't see the woman he had shattered. He saw a strong, complete woman who had put herself back together. During his speech, Marcus didn't apologize. Instead, he spoke about his daughters. They aren't a reminder of a mistake. They are the proof that even when life takes everything away, we always have the opportunity to choose the light. They taught us that true home isn't in a luxury penthouse, but in the honesty of sharing a chaos, even when that chaos smells like dirty diapers and triple giggles. Anya smiled. There was no resentment, only a mature love. It's not about rebooting. It's about rewriting, Marcus whispered. And this time, we've written a good beginning. And so, the story of betrayal ended not with a breakup, but with the quiet, constant construction of a family legacy. A legacy based on honesty, humility, and the unbreakable love that was born, ironically, from a simple text message. What do you think of Anya's final choice, turning her pain into a social legacy? Do you believe that love that is earned is stronger than love that is given freely? Tell us in the comments. If Marcus's redemption story touched you, don't forget to share and subscribe to the channel. Epilogue. The truth of blue eyes. 15 years later. The greatest impact of our story isn't seen by us, but by the generations that follow. 15 years after Marcus Thorne knelt in the olive grove, Sharma Thorne's social capital had become a national entity, and Anya was a regular keynote speaker at economic summits on sustainable development. The small country cabin had been expanded, but maintained its rustic charm, with a large porch where the family often gathered. Lily, Luna, and Liana were no longer blonde-eyed triplets. They were 3 vibrant teenagers, each with a distinct personality, but all sharing the same ash-blonde hair and their father's intense gaze. One Saturday morning, as Anya and Marcus prepared brunch, Liana, the most direct of the 3, walked in with an old family photo album. "Mom, Dad," she began, with the album open to a page showing a young, radiant Anya in a luxurious New York penthouse. "Why is this photo so different from all the others?" The 3 sisters clustered around, pointing at the cold, childless loft. It was a photo of the old world, before the break, the building, and the forgiveness. Anya and Marcus exchanged a look. They had agreed they would tell them the truth when they were older, unvarnished, but with love. "That photo is from a time when we lived in a very big city, in a very beautiful but somewhat empty house," Anya began, her voice soft. "Your father and I were looking for different things in life, and we separated." "But that's not why," interrupted Lily, the most sensitive one. "Grandma Carmen once told us that Dad left because he thought happiness was in expensive things, and work was more important than love." Marcus knelt, gathering his daughters. There was no anger, only deep humility. "Lily is right," Marcus said. "Your mother didn't separate because I left. I left because I was a cowardly man, chasing an idea of success that didn't exist. And your mother left that house to protect you, even before I knew you existed." Liana, the strategist, asked, "But why did you come back, Dad? If you left for expensive things, why did you return to a house that had almost nothing?" Marcus hugged Anya with one arm. "I came back because I realized my true value wasn't in what I earned, but in what I had lost. I came back because, one day, I saw you 3 in your second-hand coats, with that light in your mother's eyes, and I knew you had built the life I had always been searching for." Luna, the dreamer, raised a hand and touched her father's blue eyes. "So, the blue eyes aren't just Dad's, they're the family secret?" Anya smiled, wiping a silent tear. "They are the family secret, my love. The secret is that even the biggest mistake can become the beginning of the strongest love." The girls listened, and in their intelligent eyes, there was no judgment, but understanding. They understood that their parents' true legacy was not the fortune of Sharma Thorne's social capital, but the lesson that love is chosen every day, and honesty is the strongest root of all. What do you think of how Anya and Marcus handled the truth with their daughters? Is total honesty always the best strategy, even about past pain? We want to read your final opinion in the comments. And with the certainty that their love was a daily choice, we conclude the powerful saga of Anya and Marcus. If their journey inspired you to believe in second chances, hit the like button and share. Now, the ghost of Sterling Capital. 5 years after Liana made her definitive choice, the Sharma Thorne social capital had become an influential global model. They were now co-hosting a high-profile impact investing summit in a newly restored heritage retreat center near their town, far from the skyscrapers of New York. Anya, poised and confident in her late 40s, was the opening speaker. Marcus watched her from the front row, his pride palpable. Her message was simple but revolutionary. The highest return is the human return. During the reception, the inevitable happened. Marcus found himself approached by a familiar, impeccably dressed figure, Claudia, the woman he had left Anya for 2 decades ago, now a senior partner at Sterling Capital. She represented everything he had abandoned, polished, ambitious, and utterly focused on the bottom line. "Marcus," Claudia said, her voice dripping with calculated warmth, "it's been fascinating watching your little project, turning a quaint little village into a social experiment. It's sweet." She didn't miss a beat. "Sterling is looking to branch into ethical investing, purely for PR, of course. We're offering to buy a majority stake in your Strong Roots model, a 10-fold valuation. You and Anya could finally enjoy the real luxury you once had." She was offering him back the golden cage, now much bigger and shinier. The real valuation. Marcus looked around the room. He saw Lily, now a respected social worker, talking passionately with a local entrepreneur. He saw Luna, the architect, discussing her plans to build affordable, sustainable housing. He saw Liana, interning with the foundation during her final college break, effortlessly commanding a networking circle. He looked back at Claudia. He saw the same cold ambition in her eyes that had once driven him. "Claudia," Marcus replied calmly, "thank you for the offer, but you misunderstand the nature of our business. You value capital based on its market price. We value it based on its irreplaceability." "Irreplaceability? It's just a formula, Marcus, a spreadsheet," Claudia scoffed. "No," he corrected her, his voice firm. "Irreplaceability is the look in my wife's eyes when she talks about her work. Irreplaceability is knowing my daughters are choosing purpose over power. Irreplaceability is the peace I found on this creaking porch, which is something your entire billion-dollar portfolio can't buy." He leaned in slightly. "You offered me an easy life once, Claudia, and I took it. It nearly destroyed me. Sterling Capital can buy many things, but it can't buy back my integrity, and it can't buy the legacy Anya and I have built. The price is not negotiable because the value is priceless." Claudia's perfect smile wavered. She realized she wasn't talking to the old Marcus Thorne, the man driven by status. She was facing a man anchored by principle. Without another word, she turned and walked away, the ghost of his past finally receding into the shadows. The circle closes later that evening. The family was enjoying a quiet dinner. Marcus recounted the conversation with Claudia, mimicking her patronizing tone. The girls laughed heartily. "You did the right thing, Dad," Liana said, nodding. "That's a trap. It's the old world trying to drag the new world back into the dirt. We learned early on that not every opportunity is a good opportunity," Anya said, looking at Marcus. "Our biggest test wasn't the betrayal. It was the series of choices after the betrayal. Every day we have to choose the life we built, even when the old temptations come calling." Marcus raised his glass. To the unbreakable knot. To choosing the olive grove over the penthouse. They all clinked glasses, the sound resonating with the certainty of their bond. Their story was no longer a saga of betrayal and redemption. It was a blueprint for a life built on solid ground. The small, white mountain town wasn't just a location. It was the symbol of their foundation, where a simple, 8-word goodbye had ironically led to an eternal, unbreakable commitment. Chapter 11. The inheritance of integrity and the global stage subscribe now to witness the power of purpose-driven success. Like this video, if the next generation inspires you. The Three Daughters Pledge. It had been 25 years since the infamous 8-word text. The three sisters, Lily, Luna, and Liana, were now fully immersed in their careers, taking the Sharma Thorne legacy to new heights. Sharma Thorne. Social capital had expanded its reach globally, specifically targeting marginalized women entrepreneurs in developing nations. It was no longer a small-town foundation. It was a multinational force for good, yet fiercely retained its strong roots philosophy. One cold evening, the family gathered in the newly renovated rustic main office, a space that felt more like a cozy community hub than a financial headquarters. Anya and Marcus were preparing to hand over the company's day-to-day operations to their daughters. "We built this on integrity," Anya told them, her voice full of emotion. "We chose the honest chaos of our life over the sterile perfection of Madrid and New York. Your legacy isn't the capital we manage. It's the courage to say no to the easy money." Liana, now the CEO-elect, nodded firmly. "I turned down Sterling Capital 5 years ago, and I have zero regrets. Our mission is our competitive advantage. We will not compromise the social in STSC for the capital part." Lily, overseeing the non-profit arm, added, "Every investment has to pass the Olive Grove test. Would this decision feel right if we discussed it on the porch, under the stars, knowing what we sacrificed to get here?" Luna, who now designed all the foundation's physical spaces, smiled. "My architecture ensures that all our new hubs reflect our roots, transparent, community-focused, and built on sustainable materials. The design itself is a lesson in honesty." Which daughter's approach to the family legacy do you find most compelling? Is it Liana's sharp business ethics, Lily's commitment to the Olive Grove test, or Luna's architectural integrity? Tell us in the comments. The final temptation. A few months after the handover, a catastrophic financial crisis hit the global market, threatening to destabilize many of STSC's smaller investments. Liana was presented with a drastic solution by the board of external advisors: temporarily pull all liquidity from the non-profit arm to shore up the struggling main fund. It was a classic save-the-business move that Marcus would have made 20 years ago. Liana called an emergency family meeting. Marcus, now officially retired, listened silently. "The numbers say we should pull the funds and save the core business," Liana stated, her voice tight with stress. "But that goes against the Olive Grove test. If we pull that liquidity, dozens of women's co-ops will fail. Their survival funds will vanish." The silence in the room was heavy. This was the ultimate test. Marcus finally spoke, his eyes locking with Liana's. "The man I was would have said, 'Save the balance sheet, Liana. Business is business.' The man I am now says, 'The moment you prioritize the survival of the money over the survival of the people you serve, you have become Sterling Capital." Anya nodded, her hand resting on Marcus's arm. "You were born out of a decision of courage, Liana, not of fear. Let's find another way. We have always solved problems by leading with our values, not by abandoning them." Liana, taking a deep breath, rejected the advisor's recommendation. Instead, the three sisters pooled their personal wealth, selling off luxury assets Marcus had retained as family heirlooms, and used the funds to create a temporary high-risk stabilization loan for the non-profit arm. They put their personal security on the line to save their mission. If you believe that a family's values are its greatest asset, then share this video right now. The root of true wealth, the market eventually stabilized. STSC's quick, values-driven action to support its nonprofit arm earned it global praise, attracting a new wave of ethical investors who sought purpose over quick profit. The sisters' courageous choice was validated, reinforcing the principle that doing the right thing is ultimately the best business strategy. One day, Marcus and Anya visited the local bakery, the Cedar Hearth, where Anya had first worked. They watched their daughters, the CEOs and COOs of a multi-million-dollar global enterprise, laughing as they helped the current owner knead dough, just as Anya had done years ago. "Look at them," Anya whispered to Marcus, her eyes shining. "They are not defined by the money. They are defined by the work and the heart." Marcus wrapped his arm around her. "I thought my greatest achievement was building an empire. It wasn't. It was leaving that empire for the hope of a second chance. The real miracle wasn't the triplets, Anya. The real miracle is that we built a family whose legacy is not a balance sheet, but a story of